The rain had just stopped in Columbia, Missouri, on October 10th, 2019, leaving the air heavy with dampness and secrets. A friend of Ming-Chi Ji's mother stood outside a modest 70-square-meter apartment in the east part of town, her phone trembling in her hand as she video called halfway across the world. Ming-Chi's mother, her voice tight with panic, was thousands of miles away in Xi'an, China, unable to reach her daughter. Ming-Chi, a 28-year-old mother and brilliant engineer, had vanished without a trace, leaving her 1-year-old daughter behind. The friend knocked, and the door creaked open. Joseph Elledge, Ming-Chi's husband, stood there, his face unreadable. "She's been gone for 2 days," he said casually, as if discussing a misplaced key. "She'll be back soon. She wouldn't leave the baby." But as the hours ticked by, a chilling question hung in the air. What happened to Ming-Chi Ji? Columbia, Missouri, isn't the kind of place where people disappear. A bustling college town of 110,000, it's home to University of Missouri, a prestigious institution steeped in academic tradition, often called the Athens of the Midwest. Ming-Chi Ji arrived here in 2014, a 23-year-old prodigy from Xi'an, China, chasing a master's degree in mechanical and aerospace engineering. She was the only child of doting parents who poured everything into her education, nurturing her talents from childhood. At 5, she mastered calligraphy and painting. At 7, she took up table tennis and swimming. By 10, she played the guitar and erhu, a traditional Chinese instrument. In high school, she threw herself into dance and English, her parents hiring a private tutor to perfect her fluency. Her brilliance earned her a scholarship to East China University of Science and Technology in Shanghai, where she studied mechanical engineering, before landing at Missouri's flagship university. Ming-Chi was a star, graduating in December 2014 with a master's degree and a world of possibilities. She could have returned to China, but Columbia's quiet charm held her. She took a job at a local company making dental products, her ambition burning bright. It was there, in 2016, that she met Joseph Elledge, a 21-year-old intern with boyish features and a complicated past. Raised by a single mother, Joseph was a former University of Missouri student who hadn't finished his degree. Ming-Chi, his direct supervisor, saw something in him, a spark, perhaps, or a shared sense of being outsiders in a small town. Their romance ignited quickly, a whirlwind of passion that swept them toward marriage. Joseph flew to China to win over Ming-Chi's parents, and on May 22, 2017, they tied the knot in a ceremony filled with family and friends. Photos from that time show Ming-Chi radiant, her smile wide as she held a sunflower during her pregnancy, Joseph gazing at her with what seemed like love. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Their daughter, born on October 3, 2018, brought joy but also tension. Ming-Chi's Chinese upbringing clashed with Joseph's American sensibilities, especially over postpartum traditions. In China, new mothers follow strict confinement practices, resting, avoiding cold, eating specific foods. Joseph, however, saw these as outdated, even burdensome. When Ming-Chi's parents visited to meet their granddaughter, their presence deepened the divide. They spoke mostly Chinese, leaving Joseph feeling like an outsider in his own home. He complained bitterly, later admitting to police he felt sidelined. Arguments flared over how to raise their daughter, with Joseph rejecting Ming-Chi's methods and her family's influence. Money tightened the noose around their marriage. Ming-Chi quit her job to care for their daughter, relying on freelance translation gigs and occasional help from her parents. Joseph landed an internship in Kansas City, a 2-hour drive away, forcing him to rent a separate apartment. The distance, physical and emotional, grew. By the summer of 2019, their relationship was a powder keg. They fought constantly, their voices echoing through the thin walls of their apartment. Ming-Chi, once vibrant, seemed trapped, her dreams of a fairy tale life abroad fading. Joseph, meanwhile, grew increasingly controlling, limiting her social outings and bristling when she mentioned travel. Friends later revealed Ming-Chi had confided in them about his jealousy, his need to dominate every aspect of her life. On October 8, 2019, Ming-Chi's life flickered out of view. That evening, she video called her mother at 9:15 p.m., Her voice calmed as she discussed buying formula for her daughter. She texted a friend about the same topic, her words mundane but tinged with exhaustion. Joseph claimed that around 9:30 p.m., he offered to massage her back, hoping for intimacy, but she turned him down, a rejection he said was nothing unusual. He retreated to the couch, playing video games until 11:30 p.m., when he joined her in bed. She was already asleep, he said, her breathing soft in the dark. The next morning, October 9th, their daughter's cries woke him at 5 a.m. He soothed her and returned to bed. By 8 a.m., when the baby cried again, Meng-Chi was gone. Her car sat untouched in the parking lot, her phone, passport, and clothes left behind. All she took, Joseph claimed, was a floral pattern wallet. But Joseph didn't call the police. He didn't call Meng-Chi's friends or family. Instead, he loaded his 1-year-old daughter into the car and drove. First to Jefferson City, 48 kilometers south, then to other towns, wandering aimlessly. He claimed he needed to clear his head after their marital troubles. That evening, he drove again, this time to a forested trail west of Columbia and a rose garden, returning home at 9:30 p.m. His daughter, still breastfeeding, cried for her mother, but Joseph insisted Meng-Chi would return soon. She wouldn't leave the baby, he told her mother's friend when she arrived on October 10th, sent by Meng-Chi's frantic parents. Yet it wasn't until 3:30 p.m. that day, under pressure, that he finally reported her missing to the Columbia police. The police didn't buy his story. Meng-Chi wasn't the type to vanish. A devoted mother. She was tethered to her daughter, still nursing at 1-year-old. Her phone records showed no unusual activity after 9:15 p.m. on October 8th, and her wallet alone couldn't sustain her for long. The apartment had no security cameras, but Joseph's behavior raised red flags. He seemed oddly calm, even detached. That evening, after reporting her missing, he met friends to play video games, laughing as if nothing was wrong. When he used Meng-Chi's social media to ask a friend if she'd heard from her, he dropped a bombshell. He hinted Meng-Chi was cheating, a claim that stunned those who knew her. Friends described Meng-Chi as loyal, her life revolving around her daughter and her work. But Joseph's accusations painted a different picture, one that cast suspicion on her and deflected it from him. The investigation tightened around Joseph like a noose. Police uncovered a marriage riddled with conflict. In August 2019, Meng-Chi had called a friend to ask about divorce lawyers, a sign she was planning an escape. Joseph's controlling nature was no secret. He rarely let her socialize, even objecting to short trips. A chilling TV interview on October 15th deepened the suspicion. For 9 minutes, Joseph spoke about Meng-Chi's disappearance. His demeanor bizarre. He laughed at odd moments, his smile more smirk than sorrow. When asked what he loved about Meng-Chi, he rattled off a cold list. Professional, hard-working, detail-oriented. It was as if he were reading her resume, not mourning his wife. He hinted again at her infidelity, saying, "She's been talking to another man." Yet he contradicted himself, calling her the best mother ever and vowing to be a better husband. His words rang hollow, especially when he admitted to delaying the police report because he thought she'd come back. The evidence began to pile up. Police obtained warrants for Joseph's phone and Meng-Chi's financial records. His October 9th itinerary didn't add up. He claimed to visit Jefferson City and a few nearby towns, but phone data revealed he'd also driven to Boonville and Lamine, Missouri, lingering near the Lamine River for 45 minutes, a detail he omitted. In their apartment, police found 2 damning notebooks. One, 51 pages long, cataloged every reason Joseph hated Meng-Chi, from her habits to her family's influence. The other was a guide for evading police scrutiny, with tips like, always refer to your wife in the present tense. Most disturbing were 12 audio recordings of their arguments, Joseph's voice dripping with venom. "I'll bury you in the ground," he snarled in one. "Living in America is a privilege for you. Go back to China." In another, he berated her, insisting, "This isn't abuse. I know you want me to hit you." Then came the most shocking revelation: evidence of child abuse. Photos and videos sent to Meng-Chi's mother and friends showed their daughter with bruises, injuries Joseph couldn't explain. Meng-Chi had considered reporting him, but relented when he promised to stop. On October 25th, 2019, police arrested Joseph for child abuse, catching him and his mother packing to leave with the baby. They claimed they were going for a walk, but the $500,000 bond, unusually high, suggested police suspected he was fleeing. A month later, with no sign of Ming Chi, the case shifted from a missing person investigation to a homicide. Joseph was a prime suspect. The search for Ming Chi consumed Colombia. Volunteers, the local Chinese community, and Ming Chi's friends scoured the town, while her parent prepared to fly from China. Police focused on the Lamine River, where Joseph had lingered, deploying divers, sonar, and K-9 units. They even built a temporary dam to search the riverbed. But nothing turned up. The river, it seemed, was a red herring, a calculated misdirection by a man who knew how to cover his tracks. On May 15, 2020, nearly 18 months after Ming Chi vanished, a hiker in Rockbridge State Park, just 8 kilometers from her apartment, stumbled across human remains. Nearby lay a floral-patterned wallet, Ming Chi's. Dental records confirmed her identity, shattering any hope she was still alive. The discovery forced Joseph to change his story. He claimed that on October 8, 2019, he'd seen flirty texts on Ming Chi's phone from another man. He confronted her that night during the massage, sparking a heated argument. She pushed him. He pushed back, and she fell, hitting her head on a cabinet. He said she seemed fine, go to bed afterward. The next morning, when their daughter woke him at 5 a.m., Ming Chi was still in bed. By 8 a.m., she was unresponsive, her body cold. Terrified of being blamed, he hid her body in his car trunk and drove to Rockbridge State Park on October 9th, burying her in a secluded spot. Chillingly, just 800 meters from where he proposed to her years earlier. The trial began on October 1st, 2021, a spectacle that gripped Colombia. Prosecutors painted Joseph as a monster, a jealous, controlling husband who strangled Ming Chi during the massage, driven by rage over her alleged affair and fear of a costly divorce. The absence of blood at the scene supported their theory. Strangulation left no mess. The 9 hours of recorded arguments, filled with Joseph's threats and insults, were damning. He mocked Ming Chi's appearance, berated her parents' visit, and ranted about divorce costs. His notebooks, prosecutors argued, showed premeditation, a blueprint for murder. They pointed to soil on his shoes, matching the burial site, as proof he'd hidden her body. The defense countered with a tale of tragedy, not malice. They admitted Joseph pushed Ming Chi during the argument, caused her to fall and hit her head, but insisted her death was an accident. A brain hemorrhage, they argued, killed her overnight. Joseph's failure to call 911 was panic, not guilt, and his decision to bury her was a desperate attempt to avoid suspicion. They challenged the prosecution's evidence. The audio recording showed a toxic marriage, not a murder plot. The 3-hour interrogation violated Joseph's rights, as he was informed of his right to silence, and the soil on his shoes was circumstantial, not conclusive. The trial was a battleground of controversy. Joseph's claims of Ming Chi's infidelity stirred outrage among her friends and family, who called it a vicious lie to smear her memory. The child abuse charges added fuel, with photos of their bruised daughter shocking the courtroom. Some in Colombia's tight-knit community whispered about cultural bias, questioning whether Ming Chi's Chinese heritage made police quicker to suspect Joseph, while others argued his privilege as a local, American-born man delayed his arrest. The high bond and intense media scrutiny sparked debates about fairness. Was Joseph being railroaded, or was justice finally catching up? On November 11, 2021, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. They rejected first-degree murder, suggesting they believed the killing wasn't premeditated but still intentional. They recommended 28 years in prison. Joseph's defense appealed, arguing the evidence was shaky and the interrogation unfair. But in May 2022, the judge upheld the sentence. Joseph's lack of remorse, his smirks in court, his cold demeanor sealed his fate. He showed no regret. The judge said, slamming the gavel, Ming Chi Ji's story is a haunting cautionary tale. A woman who crossed oceans for a better life, whose brilliance and warmth touched everyone she met, was snuffed out by the very person who vowed to love her. Her daughter, now motherless, faces a future shaped by loss. Her parents, who once dreamed of reconquering the world, are left with grief that spans continents. The case exposed the ugly underbelly of domestic violence. How control can fester into rage, how love can curdle into betrayal. In Columbia, Missouri, where the University of Missouri stands as a beacon of progress, Meng Chi's death is a reminder that darkness can lurk in the quietest places. As the rain falls again on Columbia's streets, Meng Chi's story lingers, a warning etched in tragedy. Domestic violence doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, in controlling glances, in heated arguments, in a marriage that promises forever but delivers despair. For those trapped in such cycles, help exists, hotlines, shelters, friends who listen. Meng Chi's voice is gone, but her story echoes, urging others to break free before it's too late.